Trump announces bold Hormuz escort mission, but US officials immediately walk it back under intense pressure. US clarifies it will only clear stranded ships from Hormuz, not provide full military protection, say American officials. As officials rapidly scale down ambitious Project Freedom, CENTCOM awkwardly hails Trump's original visionary plan. 100-plus aircraft and 15,000 US troops deployed only to escort ships out of Hormuz? Is US Navy shying away from a full confrontation with IRGC forces dominating the Hormuz Strait? Did scared Trump cancel Hormuz escort plan immediately after Iran's direct military threat? Tehran warns Trump's free ships operation constitutes blatant violation of ceasefire agreement terms. US officials scrambled to shift the public narrative after Donald Trump announced Project Freedom, as the White House sought to frame the move as a limited security step rather than a major escalation. On May 3, the US president announced an escort-style mission aimed at clearing ships stuck in the Strait of Hormuz, presenting it as a way to restore open passage and reassure global markets. After that, US officials told Axios the plan will not rely on constant, one-by-one naval escorts for every commercial vessel, trying to downplay the scale of the US military footprint. Instead, the US Navy will be present in the vicinity, monitoring the waters and deterring Iranian forces that might threaten or obstruct merchant traffic. This marks a shift toward a looser, deterrence-based posture rather than a full-scale protection regime, with the United States avoiding a formal convoy-style model. Alongside this, Washington plans to provide commercial shipping with navigational guidance, sharing information on how to move through the region more safely. This includes identifying safer maritime corridors in routes that have been assessed to be free of naval mines and other underwater hazards. The overall approach suggests the US is trying to balance navigation support for global trade with efforts to avoid a direct, large-scale military confrontation with Iran. However, Tehran has reacted sharply to even this scaled-back plan, viewing any US military presence as a potential breach of the fragile truce. Iranian lawmaker Ibrahim Azizi warned that any US escort activity in the Strait of Hormuz will be treated as a violation of the ceasefire framework. Azizi emphasized that foreign military involvement would breach what Iran calls the region's new maritime order, which it claims gives it greater control over Gulf waters. Adding to the tension, an advisor to Iran's negotiating team issued a stark warning about the future of shipping through the Persian Gulf. Mohammad Marandi suggested that vessels may need approval from the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps in order to exit the Persian Gulf, underlining Iran's push for tighter control over transit. Donald Trump has announced the launch of Project Freedom, a US-led initiative aimed at helping dozens of merchant ships stranded in and around the Strait of Hormuz, starting from May 4. Trump described the operation as a humanitarian gesture intended to assist neutral country vessels and their crews caught in the war zone, many of which are running low on supplies while waiting for safe passage. However, US officials later clarified to outlets such as the Wall Street Journal that Project Freedom would not involve direct naval escorts in the way his initial remarks implied. Instead, the White House outlined the creation of a maritime coordination cell that will identify and share safe routes through the strait, clear of mines and high-risk areas, while coordinating with commercial shipping lines and allied navies. This signals a more limited, advisory role for the US military than the image of warships physically shepherding tankers through the choke point that Trump's announcement initially suggested. Donald Trump said, and I quote, "For the good of Iran, the Middle East, and the United States, we have told these countries that we will guide their ships safely out of these restricted waterways, so that they can freely and ably get on with their business. Many of these ships are running low on food, and everything else necessary for large-scale crews to stay on board in a healthy and sanitary manner." Unquote. US Central Command, CENTCOM, has confirmed that its forces will begin supporting Project Freedom from May 4, integrating the initiative into its broader regional maritime security posture. CENTCOM has framed the mission as critical for both regional security and global economic stability, given that the Strait of Hormuz normally carries roughly one-fifth of the world's seaborne oil and LNG traffic. The command says more than 100 land and sea-based aircraft, including maritime patrol planes, fighters, and surveillance platforms, will provide surveillance, protection, and rapid response capabilities along the agreed safe corridors. Multi-domain unmanned systems, such as drones and unmanned surface vessels, will also be deployed to monitor mine-like threats, detect suspicious boats, and enhance maritime domain awareness without fully committing large warships. Around 15,000 U.S. service members across the Persian Gulf and Gulf of Oman are expected to contribute to Project Freedom, mainly in support, logistics, and intelligence roles, underscoring the scale of the operation even if direct combat is being avoided. Meanwhile, Iran has warned that any U.S. intervention in the Strait of Hormuz could be interpreted as a violation of the ceasefire framework, escalating diplomatic and military tensions. Lawmaker Ibrahim Azizi, head of the Iranian Parliament's Foreign Policy Committee, stated that any move by the U.S. Navy into the strait under the guise of freedom of navigation would trigger serious consequences. Ibrahim Azizi said, and I quote, "Any American interference in the new maritime regime of the Strait of Hormuz will be considered a violation of the ceasefire. The Strait of Hormuz and the Persian Gulf would not be managed by Trump's delusional posts. No one would believe blame game scenarios." Unquote. Trump, however, has warned that any attempt to interfere with the operation would be dealt with forcefully, suggesting that the United States is prepared to respond militarily if its role in the Strait of Hormuz is challenged. Meanwhile, diplomatic efforts to end the conflict remain deadlocked despite a halt in hostilities, with both sides still insisting on different security arrangements and guarantees before agreeing to a lasting deal. Tehran has repeatedly stated that it has not closed the strait but has instead imposed a new framework, arguing that it is merely introducing stricter rules to manage traffic amid the ongoing crisis. Under new regulations, as per Tehran, vessels need to obtain permission before transiting the Strait of Hormuz, with Iranian authorities saying coordination is necessary to avoid incidents in the crowded waterway. Iranian officials argue that the measures are a sovereign right to ensure security amid what they describe as aggression.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that we will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the U.S. will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HD videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.